Hello everyone. So it's our basic folder structure which we can follow in our organizations for Flutter code. Okay. So there is a folders which has a lead. In lead you have to make a SRC folders. Okay, where all the files and folders place on that folders. Okay. So in SRC there is a some common folders like a commons. These are the basic folders which have to maintain in your every projects. Okay. So which are some the common folders, the core folders, and resource folders, utils folders. So what have the commons? Common have a providers use uh, uh, what can put you in common folders like any splash screen, any onboarding screen. So right now I place a splash screen on common folder, so you have to place any files which have a code of splash screens or onboarding screens, so you can place that in src folders. Or in providers, in common there is a common folders. In that folder there is a folders provider. So in provider there is some common providers like authentication token, auth token providers, personal users details providers, and like that. Okay. So this is our common folders. Then this is our core folders. So what is the files placed in the core? So there is a four files: api dot core dot failure dot and type def dot. So first we have to uh, open this file type def dot. So what is the use of these files? The file is only type def, means it define future either failure functions as a short names, means at the place of a future either failure t, we can place that future either t, means I just assign a new name for future either failure t. So what is the use of future either failure t? What is the help of this? When you call any api, currently there is a no data. It's a on loading phase. So there may be availability of data in future. So for that we have just make a class with a future either failure t. In this means there is a either your class should be provide a data or may go to fail. Okay. For that there is only two options: failure and success. So for success there might be data. For failure there is no data. So there is two options. One is left, one is right, because we follow functional programming. Functional programming has two options which have right and left. So right means there is a response, there is some data on the API calls. You got a response, your API gets successfully called. But at the time of left, there may be some issue. So that for the reason you can call the snack bar, showing that there is a product fetch not successfully, like that. Okay. So this is a type def file where future either void means in either void there is may be response should be void, like a response should be null. Your API called successfully, but its response should be null. Like if you update any project, any product, okay, so there may not be any response on that after successfully call that API. Okay, so there is a two types or type def future either, future void either, failure response, future either, failure void. Okay, and there is another type def is a future void. So there is only response should be null, return should be null. Okay, so there is a no aware about there may be data, may not be data. So we can use future void for that also. Okay, now we can move another files which is a failure. So we can make a widget for failure message when our API gets failed. So we call this class for failure message and stack trace. Okay. Then there is a core file. It is only for import all the API failure and type at the same place. Okay. Then it's our API.dart files which have all the functions or methods for use for a call any APIs like a GET request, POST request, update, deletes, anything which have to maintain in API.dart for your API calls. Here you can use the your authentication token for its any API required or authentication or not. So in every class, like a GET request, POST request, and PUT request, okay, and delete request. If anyone use there is only four: put, post, and GET request. If your backend provide you patch method also, so you have to just define future either response or patch request also. Okay, so now this is a class, okay, API class which get an authentication token, means auth token. From where you get a auth token? In commons provider folder, you make a provider authentication token provider, auth token provider, which should be always null. But if anyone log in on the uh, anyone logging in the project, so the authentication token provider updated the token from fetched from login successfully API. Okay, so from that authentication token provider, auth token get the token from that. Okay, so if you call that API, okay, if you call any API get request put request, it have a two parameters, the string URL and the require auth true or false. Okay, so what the meaning of require auth true or false means? If you require auth make true, so it check that authentication token providers have a token or not. Okay, so in if you make it true, then it's put the token on the header. Okay, if you make a false, means it's for any API there is not there is no need to put a token in header. So make the require auth false. Like if you first time call any API, means if you any one person call send OTP, for that send OTP API you not require authentication. So make that require auth false. Okay, so if require authentication false, it not take a the authentication token from token providers, and if you make it true, then it's take a token provider from authentication token provider. It take a authentication tokens. Okay, after successfully uh, call that API, it send a response. Response should be null also. It's a uh, I think response should be null also, and response, but there is not giving that response should be null. For response should be null, we have to maintain that question mark also. If you want response should be null, then you can make a response question mark. If you not make a response should be null, then just make a response. Okay, then the log is only for debug your codes. It's your API called or not, which API is getting failed, what's error. So for that reason we use a log. Okay, uh, so when we call successfully this API, then this give a return right. Right means it's called successfully. Right response. It use a functional programming. Just see that fp dart. Okay, so for that you have to just add packages also. Flutter pub add fp dart also. Okay, then you have a response. If your API call get successfully called, then it's a right response. If your API get failed, then it's a call function left. Okay, and there is a failure message and stack tracks also. Okay, for same as a get request, there is a put request, there is a post request. In post request, I think there is only changes each. In get request, the required parameter is only URL and require auth. See that there is only require auth and URL. But for put request, there is a body also. Okay, which should be dynamic. Dynamic means the JSON should be any format. There must be a JSON, but it should be dynamic. It should be a nested JSONs. It should be any types of JSON. more nested and nested. You can put that. Okay. So for post request, you have to pass URL body require auth also. For uh, put request, you have to pass body also. Okay. So this is our API files. Okay, where all the methods of calling APIs are available. You can, I think there is only one missing, which is a patch request. You can make that also. So this is our core folder. Okay, so another folders is a resource. So what should have to add in resource? Resource have a five files which has assets, base, colors, endpoints, string. Okay, so what should be add in this string files? Okay, in string any message, any app name, anything, any sentence you want. If any message successfully message failed message you want to show in a snack bar or anything anywhere, you have to add that sentence on string file. Okay, there is another file which is endpoints. It's a API endpoints. Like there is only add a static base path URL, but for all the API endpoints you have to mention there in endpoints folder. Okay, and another files which is a color dot. Okay, so every color which is your theme color or any color you have to use in your app, so maintain that app color on app colors file, means color dot file. Okay, make a class of app colors, then define all colors there, then use at. Okay, then there is another file which is a base dot. Okay, in base.dart you have to maintain all the base path, means your base image path, your base animations path, base icon path. Okay, and base production URL, base test URL. So what's difference between production URL and test URLs? Like if you use a production URL, means your deployed live link of your backend. Okay, and you also work on your local code, local host backend code. Okay, so the difference between that, if you work on a production URL, means a live backend URL, so put that URL in production URL. If you run that code in your local host machine, just uh, maintain in test URL like your IP address slash your API endpoints. Okay, that the use of this base path base files. Okay, so at the time when you call that API, it's only use one base URL, which is which should be production or test URL. So it changes according your app config dev mode. Means if you make a dev mode true, it take a test URL. If you make a dev mode false, it take a production URL. So how can change that dev mode? There is a file app config, means which are config file which are placed in utils. Okay, utils have a config file which have a dev mode, is login and log http. Log http means in API response, when you go to API response, there is a log http, means if you log http true, then only it so that log in your debug console. Okay, if you make a log http false, then it not show log console in your log in your debug consoles. Okay, the use of that, and if you change that dev mode, it's use production URL and test URL according to that. Okay, there is one file in resource which is assets.dart. So what is the use of these assets and dart? It's used for define your assets like image, icons, any animations. For that you have to make a class. Like for image, you have a image assets class. For icon, you have to make a icon assets, like that. Okay, and define your image there, and use that as you use and the place of where you call you where you use a whole URL, make that a sample path like a defined name on that place. Okay, so there is a another files in resource. There is a alert config. There should not be login button, but this is a reusable buttons. Like if you want anything reusable, like a login, like a buttons, text. You can maintain that in utils also. Okay, means there is if you have any reusable text, buttons, or anything, you can maintain in login utils also. But there is a four basic files which you have to maintain: alert, config, router, and snack bars. So snack bar is a basic snack bar widgets. Okay, and router have a use a go router for change that pages. Okay, so what is the use of these go routers? Why we can use this? um, so I think you simply use a navigator dot push for change that pages. But the issue on that, uh, if you use a deep linking, means if you got a notification on your app, when you click on that notification, you go to um, any pages, like if you notification for orders. So when you click that notification for orders, it's go to for orders pages. Okay, so it's used in only deep linking. Any It traverses you any specific pages, any specific places. Okay, so for that reason we can use the go router. Okay, so there should be a go router. Okay, and another file which is config. I think config have to explain that. Okay, there is only one file which is missing, which is alert. So alert is the only for alert box. Okay, so we can use that if you want anywhere as showing alert, so you can use that alert. Okay, this is our utils, this is our resource. So, and there is a one for file for features and models also, folders for features and models also. If you want models in separate, you can make a separate. If you want models in features, means there is features like a product, author, chat. So you can maintain that models in features, means product also. In features there is a product in chat or chat. So you can maintain model in MVC structure also, means at the place of in the place of a folder, folder, you can place on that product folder, you can place model folder also. Okay,